And welcome back, everyone, to Lantern Corps. Today's Lantern Corps comes to us from Perfect Cell, who asked the question, what is Shigekune Genryusai Yamamoto's Lantern Corps? The former head captain of the Gotei 13, now dead. We're not doing the Black Lantern Corps because that's too obvious. He was the pillar of the Soul Society for millennia. As he said, in over 2,000 years, there's no Shinigami who was stronger than him. He not single-handedly, but with his previous Gotei 13, beat back the Quincy invasion and Yuaba. He unfortunately lost his life in the second Quincy invasion against Yuaba. But he is always considered the pillar of the Soul Society and one of the strongest figures in the Bleach world. So the question then becomes, what Lantern Corps fits him best? This actually is a bit tricky because on some level, he emotionally fits a huge chunk of these Lantern Corps. When his lieutenant, Sasakibe, died, sorrow at that moment would have fit him. He wouldn't be a Gold Lantern. He's not a White Lantern per se because he's taken too much life. And as I said before, he's already dead, so Black Lantern works. But there are moments where, because he is the pillar and because he represents such a staple in the Soul Society, and for people like his captains who he inspires, hope kind of works. But it's not enough for him. It's not consistent enough, I'd say, for him to really be a member of the Atlantic Corps, because he himself is not a person of faith/hope, at least in the traditional sense, or of that a Blue Lantern would go for. So it comes down, I think, you got to take white off, you got to take black off, got to take blue off. He's not a greedy individual. He's also not a Lantern of compassion, just because he does have compassion. In fact, he grows more compassionate as the series goes on. And it's really not a Lantern of love, per se. I think there's 4 options here. 1, there's been enough moments where he could have been a Rage Lantern. Now, this is still a circumstantial option, which is why it's the last one. It's the least likely one. But it's still, when we actually see him in a lot of the series, is he letting his anger kind of take hold and be like, I'm going to waste you into the sands, waste you into ash. All things in the universe turn to ash. Ryojin Jaka! And especially when he's raging out in the in the 1,000-Year Blood War arc. Oh, that's Yamamoto completely like, I'm letting revenge take over. I'm going to waste you to nothing. So he's not someone who's constantly carrying anger with him. But that fiery anger is always there. So rage, I think, is the least likely, but still a solid option. So next is fear. And again, like, even Yuaba feared Yamamoto. Even though he thought he had grown complacent and weaker, he still knew, I can't go up against his Bankai. I need someone to distract him and weaken him so I can steal his Bankai after the fact. Yeah, and to be fair, it's one of those things where he is feared. He's feared more by his captains than his enemies, which is weird to say. But everyone respects and is like, everyone has massive amount of respect for him. But also is like, yeah, don't F with old man Yama. So I think fear might actually be a little weaker than even rage on the scale, just because, yes, he is a frightening individual. And if we were at him at his peak, then, oh my God, yeah, fear might be the number 1. But surprisingly, I think rage actually does fall a little bit more into line with him. Just because it's less that people are straight out afraid of it, and more it's like, okay, he's an obstacle I need to overcome. Aizen looked at him as an obstacle, less afraid of him, but more of an obstacle. Yuaba, definitely the same thing. But again, there's other individuals who were, hell, even Driscoll, the guy who killed Sasakibe and then he just incinerated him, wasn't really afraid of Yama in the least. Like, a lot of these Quincy's had a lot of chips on their shoulder. Either way, though, then there's the obvious answer of Green, overcoming great fear. He probably did that early in his life, and having great willpower. He has that in spades. But I don't know. Will doesn't seem to quite work here. Maybe it's just because we don't see him really afraid anymore. Maybe that's what it is. Because without knowing what his early life has been like, apart from, say, dealing with Ikamo. Oh, God, I always hate pronouncing that. Hollow that turned into the sword. I'm not going to try to pronounce the name. God, that name is just so. To try to pronounce. Apart from that, which I don't even know if he was afraid when he fought him, he did get beaten. Think about that. That Hollow did beat Yamamoto. Maybe it was a Yamamoto without a Zanpakuto at that point, but still, that Hollow did beat him. And that's a much younger, closer to, at least in terms of vitality, physical, all that, more peak version of Yamamoto, and he beat him. But apart from that, I don't know how scared Yamamoto's ever been, really. Again, great willpower, all that, sure. But you do also need to be overcome great fear, and Yamamoto is not someone, I'm not sure, is someone who's ever been able to overcome great fear. And believe it or not, I don't, despite everything else, I don't think it's rage, because rage is circumstantial. He's not constantly in a rage. It's not something that's just constantly in him. Now, in the 1,000-Year Blood War, he's more or less in a constant rage until near the end where he thinks he beats Yoba. But other than that, I mean, rage would probably be your second best category. Fear is your third. And green weirdly enough comes in at kind of like fourth, dead last almost. And death is an honorable mention because obviously he's dead. But yeah, fear. Less people are afraid of him than it seems to be implied. No, believe it or not, I think Yamamoto is an ultraviolet lantern. Because now, again, it was never fully stated, if I remember correctly, that what the ultraviolet lantern emotion is. We know it's negative emotions, but it's widely believed, and there is a lot of evidence in there, that it's shame. And Yamamoto carried a very big shame with him ever since the 1,000-Year Blood War arc. Or not, ever since the first invasion of the Quincy's. And Mayuri even points it out, it's like, no, this is your fault, when you failed to kill that man 1,000 years ago. And Yamamoto, for 1,000 years, has carried that shame with him, and it cost him his life. We still see moments of that shame throughout the entire series. His pride, he's too shameful, if you will. He would feel shame on his pride to accept help from a human to recover or heal his arm. That's stated. He was too prideful, basically. And then the entirety of the 1,000-Year Blood War arc is that shame coming to light and him still feeling that shame. Yeah, his anger might have overridden that. That's a big might. But either way, even if it had, that shame is still there. And when you see him at the very end of that fight before he gets cut down, the amount of just defeat and pitiful shame on his face is evident. Now, he's been able to bury that shame, I think, for a long time because he assumed that they weren't coming back. But no, that shame was always there, always waiting. So yeah, I think, believe it or not, that Yamamoto might be a lantern of shame. And I wouldn't say this if Yamamoto wasn't someone who was thousands of years old and basically had to carry that kind of emotion with him the entire time. If you were, say, just an old man in his 70s, I don't know if I would say he was shame. I'd actually say he was probably closer to rage or will, or maybe, or fear. But again, because of how long he has to carry the emotional weight of something, shame surprisingly makes sense to me. Now, right after that, though, I probably would go rage. I just because throughout the entirety of a giant chunk of the series, there have been a lot of moments where he is just angry and ready to just eviscerate people. Then I'd probably go fear, and I'd probably have will as the second weakest. But surprisingly for me, I think shame makes a lot of sense for Yamamoto, believe it or not. Now, this is just my opinion. You can disagree all you want. And if you're going to give me a reason, a true argument for some of the lanterns that, of course, I don't think he can qualify for, can you give me a reason for gold? The Lantern Corps of Happiness, where you have to be perpetually happy most of your life? I don't think you can, sir or madam, but I'm willing to hear your argument. But then there's others, like avarice, love, life. Those are ones I could at least see an argument to try to be made. But I don't know. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. But thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Like, comment, share, subscribe, and I'll see you next time.